The lie. Wow. Hello. Hello, Stewart. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, hey, it's kind of dark here, isn't it? I thought I might have a little more light, but let me see.
Oh, I see something. I see that you have a window to trees.
Yes.
I see your glasses.
Yeah, there we go.
You have a beard.
Yeah.
And you have lots of hair and you have a cap on.
That about works. You've got quite a lot of light coming through there.
Oh,
Sure, it'll get
light.
better.
Welcome. Welcome, friend. Stewart Sangha. Oh, Shanti.
Ah,
that's your name. Shanti?
that'll work.
I saw Stewart Sangha.
Yes. I am using their Zoom. I opened up for last Wednesday and have not been able to log out since. Have any idea how to do that?
Are you? I don't know. Are you in Florida?
Stewart, Florida.
Are you the Shanti that handles or facilitates a meditation group
on Tuesdays?
On Tuesdays? Maybe
yes.
I've been to it.
Yes, you have. You've come by. You're up in what? Tallahassee, is it?
In Central Florida.
Central. Ooh. A little chilly this morning, yes?
I haven't checked.
Okay.
I haven't gone outside. Let's see. Let's go outside.
All right. I'm just going to open up a little bit. Pretend like I'm outside.
Pretty dark. Oh, let's check. This phone gives me the weather. It's 66 degrees.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Let's see.
There we
There's
go.
those birds making a lot of noise.
Oh, wow.
They sound like dinosaurs.
Pigeons.
Big cranes.
Cranes. Oh.
Where? They must be on the other side of the lake. They're pretty loud. There's those big, tall, skinny cranes.
Beautiful.
They walk across the streets like if they owned it. Wow. Om Shanti Shanti. So, Shanti means peace.
And silence as well.
Wow. What brought you here?
A Zoom link.
Zoom link?
Yes.
To meet up?
Yes.
Wow, you joined. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you for inviting. What's on your sweet mind this morning?
Wow. Did you know that the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, has conducted a study that has found samples of people that had that donated blood, I guess, and they had COVID-19 since way back in December, and it could have been even earlier than that they had it. So that changes the narrative of when it came to America. December. Like they say it was in January. Now it could be December or earlier because It could have been there even earlier than December. Wow. Maybe it originated in America and it went to China.
Maybe it originated in our mind.
Maybe, maybe Trump invented it. So now we can call it the Trump virus.
Not really. Yes, that would be a good distraction. Wow.
What else? What else is in my disturbed mind?
Oh.
And this morning I took my mother, who's lying in bed. I took her out of bed and took her to go pee. she needs a little help getting out and remembering where the bathroom is.
Yes.
She's 98 years old.
Oh, wow. Wow. Bless her. Wow. Yeah. I'm so far still remember, but forgetting a lot of other things lately, which is, I guess, okay.
Yes. She's fairly happy to have forgotten everything.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Happy. Yeah.
Well, she mixes up things from way back, and she sometimes believes or wants to believe that her mother's still alive. And then when if we tell her no, she passed away 37 years ago. If she was still alive, she'd be 130. And he said, "Oh no, why didn't you tell me?"
So I was going to say, does she still talk to her? Because sometimes
every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, every now and then she gets anxious and decides, "Oh, I gotta get home," because she thinks she's somewhere else. I gotta get home to my mother. She's waiting on me.
Gotcha.
Can you help me get there? Like, it's only down the block. Wow. And actually, her mother would be in Colombia.
Oh, wow.
In a small town. She imagines that she's still living in her small town.
Gotcha. Yeah.
In the mountains.
Wow. Wow.
Fresno, Tolima, Colombia.
That sounds wonderful.
But she remembers the names of her brothers. She was the only girl in a family of 7 brothers and her.
Wow. Wow.
It's interesting. The mind.
Yeah.
And what about the Akashic records, or what what would take from life to life? Is it? I imagine it's stored in some kind of cloud. Everything that we've done is stored in some kind of cloud, and we sometimes are able to retrieve it. Well, I guess through meditation. We have another guest here, Luis Del Pino. Let's see.
Yeah, wow, cool. Good morning.
Good morning, Luis. Let's see if I can.
Good morning, Jairo.
Yeah, I switched to gallery view, and there's Luis.
Good morning, Jairo.
Luis is in Claremont, Florida. Shanti is over in South Florida. What city are you in, Shanti?
Stewart.
Good morning,
Florida.
Shanti.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Stewart,
Happy
Florida.
Saturday. Wow, what a pleasure. A new
and Stewart runs a few meetups himself. I guess one on meditation. What's it called again?
It's put it non-duality and beyond. See what that
non-duality and beyond meetup.
We are going to the crux right away. Boom.
And I met him on a Tuesday meditation meetup.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I guess it seems to be a mixture of of Tibetan Buddhist lineage, and maybe since you named Shanti, maybe it has a Advaita Vedanta in it too, or something like that. Or
Well, non-dual is Advaita, that's for sure.
Exactly. I
Advaita, not two.
kind of a spiritual mutt is what I go by.
Wow. Wow, that's great. That's great. I am a scientific mutt. Uh, I, of course, if I adhere to the Advaita, the non-duality, it is clear that the idea of spirit or soul or individuality becomes very, very slippery. Unless like in the Hindus, they call Brahman the great spirit, the self with a
Not
big
that.
S.
Yeah.
But it's not a self because, of course, you cannot be the whole and the part at the same time. So it's so I call myself a scientific mutt and not a spiritual mutt, because that way I dispel right away the term spirit, which is in the Western culture. The spirit is associated with the soul, which is associated with the I, me, myself, the ego, the thinker, da 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 da. But of course, here in the West, well, we have different components. We have the body, and then we have the mind, and then we have the feelings, and we have all kinds of different components. We break ourselves down. But at the end, we always say, well, there's the real me is my soul, is my spirit, but it's mine, me, myself, and I. And I say, well, if Advaita is right, and I say it is, then there is no me, there is no you, there is being, there is it.
Yes.
Tat, vat, asam, I think they say.
Tatswamati?
So that's right. So I am that, you are that, we all are the same thing. But it's not a thing, because form is emptiness and emptiness in form. So the thing is empty. And can you call something empty an I? Not really. So that's why I use science. And when I say science, I use the three fundamental sciences, I would think. Physics, the study of what is, the cold facts, the mathematics, the positive science. This measures this much if we agree on the length of a centimeter.
Yeah.
The psychology, which is the science of the mind understanding itself, because the world is understood through the mind. So, but the mind has to understand itself because it's self-reflective. And then philosophy, which is making sense out of complete chaos, because reality, the whole universe, the cosmos, is a big chaos. Things move around, they show up, they disappear. White holes, black holes, big crunches, big bangs. This beautiful symphony of nonsense. and there is no one there to think about it. If there was no self-aware consciousness, complex like ours, or somebody else's that is smarter than us on the other side of Andromeda, nobody is there to go, what is this big mess? So philosophy is the mind that, after it understands itself and studied what is, goes, okay, but this is what it is. And it kind of makes sense of it, or explains it, or considers it. But that doesn't mean that it's true. It's correct. It's accurate. So reality in and of itself is beyond, transcends any idea that can be presented regarding itself. So that's my muttness.
my muttness is 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 now that the that consciousness created matter. So we are
It,
creating everything
Jairo,
like a
Jairo,
virtual reality. This is all a virtual reality that we're creating, co-creating. So
Jairo,
the universe, yes.
so sorry to interrupt, but Mike wanted to be invited. Can you invite Mike McKenna? Can you
Oh,
send him a link? I was just
oh,
talking to him before I joined, and he said he had a few minutes to join us.
oh. How do I do
So,
that? How do I do that?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know how to reach him. Can you
Then,
send him a link?
yes. I think I did send
It's
him a link previously.
just send him my phone number 407-486-8642. That's all even numbers except for the 7.
Nice.
Zoom.
And no password necessary.
Zoom.
And we're
407
welcome.
what? 407?
Yes, then 486 and 8642.
8642. Okay. All
So
right.
I got into Tibetan Buddhism. Well, not really. It's a form of it. Way back in 2007, in Orlando, at a center, and I also met a Tibetan Lama that came over to Orlando around that time and got an empowerment, but he resides in the Tampa Bay area, so it's kind of not very often to go there see him. But he has a nice center there in Wesley Chapel. Is Drupon Tinley Nimpo Rinpoche Drikung Kagyu, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shanti. Shanti is the name.
Mhm.
How did you end up being a spiritual mutt? What brought you to where you are today?
Well, I always knew somebody knew the truth somewhere, and I was determined to find that out for myself as well.
Good for you.
Oh, but what is the truth? That's an interesting question.
I think that's what was bringing us together this morning, wasn't it?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God. You
So
swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
under the Buddhist
Is that
tenets,
the
I
truth?
think we break it down into two truths, don't we? Which is
Yeah.
usually translated as relative and absolute.
Yes.
But I've come across that relative, is just not really a true translation for that word as far as Buddhism goes. It would be better translated as fictitious.
Fictitious truth.
Mm-hmm.
False
Because
truth.
it's really our story, you know?
Yeah,
and we're making this stuff up all the time.
Yep.
What we construct.
So exactly.
Absolutely. I agree.
So even our beliefs of
Yes.
Dvaita, Vedanta, or of anything Buddhist, even the idea of that fictitious truth versus absolute or ultimate truth is fictitious also.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like in Dzogchen, that is under the Buddhist moniker too, but it's like all the rest of the aspects of Buddhism support this. And that's really where the non-duality comes in, where it cuts through all the teachings, the Prajnaparamita, comes through. And wow, it really does cut through all that we say.
So yes, I agree with you 100%. So what is reality as it is, eternal, infinite, the whole enchilada, to no end and no beginning, is the truth. But of course, that is always transcendent of anything that the truth might think about itself in the true Advaita way, because we are reality, the whole enchilada, thinking about itself with a certain degree of clarity. And that is an asymptote to infinity, because of course reality is eternal and infinite, whatever it tells about itself is always catching up with itself.
Yeah.
So that is the fictitious side. That is the relative side
Yeah.
with regard with the absolute.
Yeah.
But of course, the absolute cannot think because it's the absolute. So it's beyond thought. So reality is, but it doesn't know that it is until from it emerges self-aware, abstract, complex thinking like ours, or somebody else is smarter, is to go, hey, I'm here. The problem is that the intellect or the ego mistakes his own identity. It is, oh, this is me looking at the whole. But that's the big mistake. It is the whole looking at itself through that observation.
Yes.
Once you go through the proper discipline and the proper asceticism, because this takes asceticism of mind, the discipline, the hygiene of life, you go through that wormhole and you come out of it and you go, what's here? And it's nothing. There's nothing. I am everything and nothing at the same time. Very well represented by the mandala of the yin yang, black and white, being and non-being. Then you liberate yourself. Then reality looks at itself without any filter, no bias. It sees itself absolutely clearly. The mind then becomes a superconductor. But of course, again, there is, to the very, 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 very closeness of reality within itself, due to the quantum nature of reality, because we have to use that too, it appears that when the reality gets close to itself through its own knowledge, absolute, and the story that it tells about itself gets really, 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 really close, very close to zero. But zero only exists for a quantum time in a quantum space, which is 10 to the minus, I think, 37 or something like that, the Planck scale. So when reality is able to look at itself through a superconductor mind, it does so in a quantum way. So it's outside of the realm of our very conventional thinking. But this very perspective is liberating, because then no matter where you are on that side of the zero and the one and the zero, because you can describe everything in terms of zero and one. Zero is non-being, nibbana, emptiness, shunyata, the ground of being, blah, blah, blah. And one is anything that is not the ground of being. Then you can say that, what am I? What is reality? Is zero and one at a frequency that is infinite and eternal.
Yeah.
And between the zero and the one, that's where it can see itself.
Have you ever slowed down and actually seen that gap?
Yes, you see yourself as this dynamic interplay. And the question that Shakespeare asked, to be or not to be, was the wrong question, because it is to be and not to be concurrently. That is the question.
David, welcome, David. He's in Altamonte Springs, Florida.
Good morning, David.
And David, I'd like you to meet Shanti. He's new. Luis Del Pino is old. I'm old. David is old for us.
I am very old.
But Shanti is new, and for Shanti, we're all new. Well, I've met Shanti before in another meetup some weeks ago, like that he runs, kind of a meditation meetup. What do you think, David? You're muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, about what?
Oh, about the truth. What is the truth? Oh,
Well, I tell you, that was on my mind this past week about your topic here. And, I was thinking, it isn't so much the truth as the source of the truth. Because the thing is, everybody's source will be their own truth. Isn't that right?
yeah.
So the thing is, whatever
The
you
fictitious truth, the fictitious truth, yes.
well, I
Yeah.
know, according to what you're saying, you know, according to nature, yes, that's true. But the thing is, reality is that's everybody's reality, period, isn't it?
Reality looks at itself with a
Well, I
certain
mean, the
degree of
thing is,
clarity.
okay, your source is the thing is where you look at truth yourself, okay, and that there will come out in the things and the words that you say.
Mhm.
Just like myself, whatever I see as truth will also reflect in the words that I say. So whatever your interest may be, or whatever interest Jairo may be, or whoever else, the thing is, truth is whatever their source of understanding actually
Yeah.
comes from.
So what what Jairo was saying and Shanti was saying is that there there are two truths then,
Well,
because
well,
there's the truth that you think is true, you know, your ideas, your environment, your history, your culture, your whatever your knowledge, but then there is what is. So your
right.
knowledge is
Well, that,
about something. So that reality, that truth, is the real truth. But of course, when we talk about it, we talk about it from our truth. So there are two truths.
well, that's
What
true. I
is?
agree. I agree with that. The only thing is you've taken identify it as you know, what is reality. To me, I look at with another similar word as that is what is existence. You know, what existence is, what is nature. I
Yeah.
mean, all
Yeah.
these different things that can be used in several
What
different
is
ways.
being? What is being? Right.
Being is existence. I mean, another word for being is
There you go.
existence.
There you
I
go.
mean,
So
reality, another one is existence. I mean, the thing is, you know, but the thing is, you can focus on whatever your source or anybody's source may be determines what their particular
yeah.
observation of being or existence or reality or whatever you want to call it. The thing is,
So
there's
what are
many
we?
words
Yeah.
that take and have
Yeah.
synonyms for that event.
In all practicality, then we need to ask this question: what is more interesting, the truth as it is, beyond thinking, beyond us, because that's what we are talking about, that it, and what is more interesting, what should we do with it? I mean, what are we talking about? Because every moment that I spend alive, I've decided to make it practical. I'm on a mission here. I'm not just wasting time. I am on
Yeah,
a
but
mission. Yes,
yeah, but the
I'm
thing
on.
is, Luis, the thing is, how much control do you have over your time? Just for instance, like, I hate to say this again, the coronavirus or
Yeah,
the election fraud or whatever. The
yeah,
thing is, all these things impose themselves upon the lives of everybody.
yeah.
I
But
mean, when you go to
yeah,
work and they tell you, hey, you got to wear a mask, you take, yeah, piss on you. I'm not wearing a mask. You do that?
no, I am. I play nice, as a matter of fact, because that's part of the routine. That's part of the hygiene of life. Is playing nice with others.
Well, I
Uh,
know, but that is that there an absolute and a truth of nature in itself that people do
no,
that?
no, no, no,
It's
no.
not.
This is a. So my mission is to play the football game without regard to the result of the of the match. But
Well, don't sound
so
like you're doing that if you're wearing a mask when they everybody's got a mask on, and you know if you
I,
may
I'm
believe.
play I'm playing by the rules of the game.
Well, but then you're playing by the rules and the sources and the truths of
Yeah,
government of the
yeah,
place where you work.
yeah. But
So
it doesn't.
how do you mix
It
them and how do you separate them?
That's right. Well, I wear the mask, knowing that I may not agree with, the rationale behind it and everything. So I
And
play the game, but I have my own thinking. So I'm
yeah, but
playing the game,
how are
but
you
I
living
have my
in
own rules.
reality when you're doing that? You're not.
What's that? You asked me a question. What was that question?
Yeah, I said, how are you living in reality when you're following the rules of the game of people?
Very good. I say my answer to that is I am reality.
You're wearing a mask. It's not. It's a
Yeah,
fictitious thing.
but see, my game is crazy, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely genial, because I am the whole of
Oh,
reality playing my own game.
Joel, welcome, Joel. Joel
So,
is in Toronto.
Good morning.
Good morning.
good morning,
Joel,
Joel.
I'd like you
And
to meet
Seth
Shanti.
is Seth there too?
Yeah,
Seth
making
is
Seth's
coffee.
there
there.
too.
Look at that. Holy moly, we have a big family reunion. Hello.
Welcome, Seth. Welcome, Joel. Seth is in So I'm not sure where Seth is.
Isn't
Are
Seth
you
in
in?
Longwood?
No, that was Luke.
Oh,
I'm not
that's
sure where
where he's
Seth
from.
is anymore.
Good morning. Good morning, my fellow
Joe-
Buddhists.
Joel is in Toronto.
Wait a minute. Let's not. I am not a Buddhist.
You're not a Buddhist.
No,
Are you a truthist?
I am a realist.
You're a
Morning, everybody.
truthist? Are
I
you a
am a-
comprehensivist?
I am a realist.
A real
Seth is Seth is
I'm
a
right up the road from Louis. I'm
From
in
where?
Montverde. I'm in Mineola.
You're in
Oh.
Mineola. We're neighbors.
Yes. Practically.
wow.
Holy moly!
David is in Altamonte Springs. That's south of where I'm at. I'm in Lake Mary.
And I
And
am gonna get some
Shanti
coffee.
Shanti is in Stewart. Stewart, that's is that near West Palm Beach?
About 60 miles or so north.
Oh, wow. What other city is near Stewart?
Jupiter,
Jupiter. Oh, wow, you're way out
Also-
there.
also a planet.
About to converge with Saturn.
what happened to our math professor? He didn't wake up early enough?
That's right. You had to go get some Java juice.
No, not Professor Del Pino. The math professor was here last week. He was
Oh,
very
Mike. Oh,
Mike,
yes.
yeah.
I hope Mike shows up. Then we can learn about I forget.
cardinal numbers and sequences.
Cardinal. Wow, great memory.
Yeah, he was really into it. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, how you doing, Joe?
I'm good. I found out some of the things that I disagreed with you about last week. I may have been wrong about.
Like what?
Well, like, I'm not sure if I may have just misunderstood you, but this business of hospitals getting paid for COVID deaths, it's not for the deaths that they get paid more for. They get paid more for treating people while they're alive.
Yeah, right. Well, the thing is, that's right. Well,
Yeah.
it's just a matter of semantics. It's just like, you talk about that just recently here in the Orlando area. Now they're talking about, well, they're going to have to stop testing because they don't have any money. Well, where'd the money come from to do the testing? It all come from the federal government. If they didn't.
That's easy to solve. All we have to do is buy 1 or 2 less nuclear submarines or something.
Well, I know, but I mean, the thing is it really?
I know how to
important
shuffle the
begin with?
budget.
Huh?
No, foreign investors pay for
No, you just print more money.
Oh, you're pretty
it.
more
No,
money.
you can't just print more money.
Yeah, it's a bad
can't.
idea. So the credit is dangerous.
No.
So it's better to spend less.
Yeah.
Then how
Less
did
bombers,
we get the
less
stimulus bill?
nuclear submarines. I like that option.
And what about
Hey, David. David, let me
what
ask you a
about
question.
selling bonds?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Well, because I heard the last part of that conversation. Do you wear a seatbelt when you drive?
Yeah, because it's mandatory.
But you won't wear a mask.
I wear a mask not when I drive, but when
Well, you're saying you're not going to wear a mask.
Whenever I'm in a place where it's mandatory, I wear a mask.
Oh, okay. Well, you were saying I'm not going to wear a mask. So
Well, the thing
along
is,
that
when I'm in
line,
my
I would
hey,
expect
wait,
you
when I'm
wouldn't
in
wear
my
a
home,
seatbelt.
when I'm in my home, I'm not wearing a mask. When
Well,
I
none
walk,
of us do in our homes.
well, the thing is, they sort of try to mandate it in California, but
No, I don't think that's true.
the
But
thing is,
I think CDC
when I go
is
out walking my dog, I don't wear a mask either. The only time I
See-
wear a mask is number one, if I'm in a car and somebody there suggests or wants to wear a mask, then I wear a mask. But the thing is, if people don't want to wear a mask, I don't force it on anybody. Unless I'm driving Uber or Lyft or something like that, then I have to wear a mask.
Did
But-
you know that they executed somebody in North Korea for not wearing a mask or something like that?
Well, I
For
wouldn't
not
doubt
wearing-
it because that's
North Koreans will execute you for crossing the street the wrong way.
Public execution.
getting that way here.
Too funny.
I don't think it's funny at all. I think it's real.
The reality is funny.
what makes it real.
And I'm sticking with my story.
Good one.
What
All
story is
right.
that? What story is that, Luis?
That reality is funny, reality is beautiful. And who's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
tell me it? Who's gonna tell me it's not?
Right. It is all those things.
I bet it's ever changing as well.
Yeah.
Reality is what I say it is, at least for my own perspective. Anybody else can say anything they want.
But
That's when
it's
I
your
say it all comes from the
perspective.
source.
But
sorry?
I say reality comes from everybody's source. Wherever you get your sources of life from, that there's
Reality.
reality.
But Luis, your reality isn't. When do you determine when your reality is your perspective and when it's absolute reality?
That is
How
a
do you
great question,
separate?
Jairo.
How do you separate them, or how do you
Well,
distinguish them, discern
the
them?
tools. That's a very good question, and I'm very careful regarding that. That's why I was telling Shanti that I am a scientific mutt. So I try to, in everything that I think about what is the reality as it is, I try to be as scientific, as precise, accurate, factual as I can.
What
That's it. So
determines that? What's your source?
science.
Well, when you say science, I mean just like
Your
this
six
COVID thing.
senses. Your
Yeah.
six senses. I keep carping on this. Your six senses.
Science. When I say science, I'm talking about maybe 3 fundamental sciences. I was telling Shanti at the beginning of our conversation. I distinguish 3 fundamental sciences: the science of what is, which is physics, studies what is, measures it, and what it's made of, and everything. Okay. Nature, yeah. The positive sciences, facts, measure what it's made of, how it works, blah blah blah. And then there's the science of what understands and measures nature, which is the science of the mind. So it's psychology. And then the third science, fundamental science, as far as I'm concerned, is the science of meaning, philosophy. That means that once what is being studied by what thinks, and what thinks has studied itself, then it has to kind of go as like, all right, so what's the meaning of all this? Okay, the electrons work like this. The galaxies are separating.
But all
but
that
there's
is
this and that.
theory. All that is theory that you're saying about quantum mechanics. Yes, it's based on mathematics, and it has a lot of evidence
Mathematics
behind
is
it.
just another sense.
We need Mike here, the mathematician, to explain it. Maybe mathematics is the absolute reality, and applied math is applied.
Yeah, the problem is nobody understands
to
them.
what we think reality is.
Nobody understands the ultimate language. It's like, okay, mathematics is the ultimate language, but I don't know what the hell you're saying.
And then there's mainstream science. And if you're a scientist and you're trying to present a theory of, say, evolution, let's say that no, evolution is wrong. That's your premise, and then you'll be going against the mainstream science, so they won't accept you. They won't fund you. They'll laugh at you. So if you're basing your reality on scientific, you're a scientific nut. You could be wrong. You could, and at one
so
time
what?
the science.
So what if I'm wrong?
The Earth was flat.
Now wait a minute, Jairo. What happens? Wait a minute. What happens if I'm wrong?
Then you have to return to the ultimate arbiter of truth.
The universe.
When there is disagreement, we
have
have to play Darwin to determine the truth.
What if
all
the
I'm
Earth
saying,
is flat?
I don't care if the Earth is round or flat.
You could fall off the edge of the Earth.
I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy, and without making anybody unhappy. That's the very important to me.
Follow the mandates, the rules.
I just want to be happy without making anybody unhappy, including myself. And then I don't care if what I think about the electrons or the photons going through 2 slits, or if the Big Bang was a white hole exploding from a black hole. I don't give a rat's ass. I just want to be happy. Aristotle was right. All we want is to be happy. We just want to be happy, but we have to do it elegantly, without pissing anybody off.
That's good. I like
Is that
that.
possible?
I love you guys.
Yeah.
I love you
Yeah.
very much, all of you. There.
What do you
Math is
think,
simply a tool that we use when we come up with a hypothesis. That's how you prove your hypothesis. You prove your theory. Math is a tool of that.
Yeah,
It's a
to
numbers
explain
game.
what we see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But of course,
to explain what
it's
we
about-
measure.
But it's how you do the math that really matters, because I can have one hypothesis that the world is round and use math to prove that. Jairo can have a hypothesis that the world is flat and use math to prove that.
Right.
Now, doesn't mean my math is flawed. It doesn't mean the Jairo's math is flawed. It's just a numbers game at that point. But that is the tool we use to prove these hypotheses.
Yeah.
Hey, does
At the end
anybody
of
here know a Scientologist?
No.
Yeah.
But I've heard of it.
Clearwater.
I've heard of
I
them.
know a bunch of Scientologists. I've done a bunch of work for Scientology, not because I believe in Scientology, but because there was money involved. But I've done a bunch of their shows.
How do I get some money out of that?
Oh yeah, they got lots of money too. But I've done a bunch of their big shows, not in a few years, but back in the day before they learned how to do them themselves. We used to do their big meetings where they would get together and have their big. It's not really worship per se, but they would have their big meetings where they would basically honor L. Ron Hubbard and the CEO, they call him, David Cavendish, would stand up in front of everybody.
When you call your God a CEO, that's a good indication.
Well, he's not. There is no God to Scientology.
No.
But I mean, my only point being is that Scientology is built on the word science.
Well, the God is the dollar sign.
To them,
Luis is a
to some
Scientologist,
extent.
and he didn't even know it.
Interesting.
He's trying to form
in Scientology,
a Luis Scientology.
Well,
Go ahead, Ted.
Scientology,
Go ahead,
the ultimate reality in Scientology is clear, being
Right.
clear. That's the aspiration, and then to be theta, above clear. It's pathetic how much about this I know.
Maybe I am a Scientologist. I'm very clear, at least to myself.
But are you theta? Are
Very.
you just clear or are you theta?
Theta, when they talk about theta, you know what they're talking about. The frequency of your brain functions to be extremely low. There's like the Kahneman's low thinking versus fast thinking. So you are absolutely just very slow in your inner core. And very clear, of course, because when you have doubts, you're not theta. You're just like, is this like this? Is this like that? So you have no doubts. You have no sloth. You're absolutely
even
in the It's just that's
and
the nirvana.
They
that's
have a
nirvana.
tool. They have a tool to measure this scientifically called an e-meter, and the e-meter. And Shanti, are you a Scientologist? I don't want to offend you if you are.
No, I live with one, so no problem.
Okay. But
You've been inoculated.
Okay, the original set.
You have your vaccine done already.
They use a tool called an e-meter to measure this energy. You hold these two metal cylinders, and there's a device with a analog needle that goes back and forth.
It's
and
just
a bunch
like
of
looking
knobs
for
on
water.
the e-meter.
It measures
Sort of.
resistance, right?
Yeah, it measures resistance, but they ask you questions while you hold these cylinders, and to them there are right and wrong answers to these questions.
Right.
And as you answer the questions, they watch the needle, right? And if the needle continues to just flow backwards and forwards, then you're clear. You've reached clear.
What determines truth? How can we know what's really true from what's false?
Is that a question?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, like I don't know. Any
reality.
volunteers?
I would agree with Louis on that one. It's reality.
I disagree. I think that, when you take and separate in truth, it depends upon a person's ability to understand the language that is being spoken and being absorbed into the mind.
If that's the case, there's no truth.
What?
If that's the case, there is no truth. There is your truth. and my truth and his truth and her truth. But there's
Like,
no
hey,
truth like with a big capital T truth.
Yeah.
well,
there
right
is
now,
no the
right
truth.
now you're using words in order to describe your position. And the thing is that depending upon other people relating to the same definition as you would determine on how much they believe that what you say is true.
Right. Anybody
I'm
come
not sure
across
that's true.
anyone come across Dr. David R. Hawkins' work? He developed something
David
called
R.
the map of
Hawkins?
consciousness.
Oh,
No, I
yes,
don't believe so.
Force versus what is it? His book, and he uses what is it called?
Kinesthesia,
Kinesthesia?
kinesiology.
Kinesiology,
Kinesiology.
and so. Oh, remember Luis Del Pino, and when we were at Infinity Wellness Center, they would sell things. One of the guys
Yeah.
selling was these things that you buy and you
Yes.
paste on the object.
It was a great trick. It was a great trick because what they did was to measure your strength, your muscular force with or without the crystal. And of course, you ask somebody to raise their arm and go without the crystal, so raise your arm, and then you can, because the torque that you apply on the arm being so long, you can lower an arm, no problem.
You
just go like
force
that.
their arm down.
But then,
then
when you
with the
you put the
crystal-
crystal in their hand, you fake. You contract your muscles and you go like this. And of course, it looks like the arm is not coming down, but you are faking the strength of the arm by
It's
making
not
an
true.
effort to push it down. So of course, you go like, "Fuck, this works."
Shanti
No,
disagrees.
it's no trick. It's no trick. It's the body has its own innate wisdom, and it can tell what is actually good for it and what isn't. But it takes a level of consciousness that is
But
open.
that's without the crystal, right? You don't have to use the crystal, right?
You can
don't
do
need
that
a
with or
crystal.
without the crystal.
You can do it with a pack of sugar with people.
The
Most
guy
people,
told me.
most
the-
people go weak at sugar
Yeah, the guy
because it's
taught me
usually
the
not
trick.
good for us.
He
It's
told me how
usually
he
not
did
good
it.
for the body. But then there are those that can override that too, where they could eat rocks and it wouldn't matter. So no, it's
But how does David
You have to
R.
season them
Hawkins-
right, though. That's really the big secret with the rocks.
How does David R. Hawkins determine the truth? Like I read a forum where they're saying, yeah, and he tends to be or he measures from 0 consciousness to what 600
1,000.
different things or 1,000, and so he put like certain religions up here and maybe others down here. I don't want to mention them, but and certain politics up here, like I would have thought, oh, liberals are more closer to truth, but he determined conservatives are more up higher. So how does that work? How did he determine that scale and different things?
The only way I can see this being, legitimate is through double-blind studies, where the person that's testing you and yourself do not know what the questions are, and it becomes consistent. And that's what they were doing too, and that's how they made this map. And finding that there's a level of consciousness where we develop courage and be able to start to rationally think rather than just reacting from emotions.
So who knows the question? The people doing the test know the question, and they test the person that doesn't know the question.
I'm saying the best way to do that is for both of them not to know for the question in an envelope sealed and saying, is this true or is this false? So that neither of them actually know what the question is.
And then they open the envelope and says, God exists, and that is it. They tested it on the person, and it said it was true.
Could you give me an easier question, please? What is 2 + 2?
Well, one of his
that I can answer.
The Discovery of God, the non-duality devotion, which works with him really well. It's like he calibrated Buddhism to be one of the highest, most integrist isms on the planet at the moment. And if we had thrown like the Old Testament and Revelations out of the Bible, it calibrates a lot higher.
I sort of agree with that. Some of it.
There's an opinion for every
That's why
concept.
even just like what, Shanti was mentioning, you'd say the word God, everybody has their own definition of God, So the thing is, everybody's, not speaking on the same level. Even if you were to come up with a question about God as true or false, when somebody answers it false or true, there's a lot of background and definition, understanding and knowledge that goes into each person as to what and how they're going to answer a question, true or false. Because what
I
may be true
propose-
for one person may not be true for another person.
I propose that God is the nickname for reality. But when you try to study God, you're trying to study the nickname, and you don't see it anywhere. But if you know
Wait
that
a second,
God,
that's not true. That's not true, Luis, because like I've said in this here meeting before, it is identified, and it is identified as reality. When you take and go back to Moses, and the thing is, and he said to God, he says, these people in Egypt, they want to know, what is your name? And what did he say?
I am what I am.
That I am.
Okay,
I am that I am.
So there you go.
Refers to reality.
So
Refers
we
to
agree.
existence.
So we agree that
Yes.
God is the nickname for reality.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely right.
But so how do you study God? No, you have to study reality. If you want to understand God, you have to understand reality.
Well,
Forget about
that's what the Bible's all about, is different realities and different relationships to God. And the thing is, within inside of it, many doctrines can be withdrawn from it. But the thing is, if you just take and look at God as reality, period, and read it as a parable, as a proverb, it says something totally different than what they project.
There you go. So we have to be scientific about reality. And that's what I
Well,
always propose.
You're not scientific in a proverb or parable, because the thing is, there is no science that can take and absolutely prove one way or the other.
That's why I don't use
individual to take and develop their own opinion as to what exists.
That's why I don't use proverbs or parables to describe reality. I use science, what science tells me.
Well, you got to come up with a different solution.
Religion.
What's that?
I said there is nothing scientific about religion.
Luis Del Pino,
No,
Scientology.
absolutely, I agree with that. Nothing scientific about it.
But what is religion? What is religion? Religion is two things. Religion is the sacred, and religion is the profane, right?
No, I
There are
disagree
things
with
that
that.
are there are idols. There are things that are worshipped, things that are sacred, things that are otherworldly, and there's everything else, which is the profane. Everything that is normal and human.
What happens at the union? What happens at the intersection of the sacred and the profane?
Excellent. Seth, yes, religion is a line in the sand that says up until the line, everything is natural. And beyond the line, it's supernatural.
Yeah.
So it's a cut in the whole of reality that says, there's a line in the sand that you cannot cross. You cannot be sacred. It's like, what? Yeah, you have to get close to the line through religion, asceticism, all the practices, being good, following the rules. You get close to the line, but you cannot cross the line.
So what's the line made out of?
It's a double bind. It's a psychological
Money.
double bind.
Money.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a psychological double bind. Where is the line? You tell me where it is. Where is the line? Is where the mind says there it is. So if the mind accepts a line anywhere, that's where the line is. How
That line is
profane.
reality.
It's like pornography. It's in the eye of the beholder. Well, the sublime, the sacred is in the eye of the beholder too. So it's the psychological double bind. There is religion. There is morality or anything that we think about. It's a line in the sand. It's the separation. It's duality. Yeah. And Advaita says there's no line anywhere. Yeah. You've been duped. There is no line. The whole of reality is just like they sell it in the stores, 100% natural. There's no point anywhere, no line where reality ceases to be natural to become sacred or supernatural. There.
Yeah, the line is in the person's mind.
There you go. So now we are free because we don't have religion. We don't have a line, so we are free. We are.
And we can go home, back to
Yeah.
Kansas.
We never left.
So that's the liberation of the mind by the mind. That is dharma. That's nirvana.
We've
It's like
been duped by the
moksha,
Wizard
moksha,
of Oz.
moksha. The yoga, reality becoming one with it without a line. There. That's the beauty of it. Fuck the line.
Well, the thing is, I believe that other different ideals do the same thing as what you're talking about. It's
Hey,
what
this is just like I tell you many times, David. This is just my opinion.
I know. That's from your
It's
source.
just
What a
Your
cop out.
source of truth, right?
A cop
Right.
out? Is that a cop out?
What a cop out.
Why? I'm happy
This is just
and I
my
know
opinion.
it, and I clap my hands.
So that brings me
So
up to-
I don't have to agree with anybody, or anybody has to agree with me in order for me to be happy. I am
I'm not sure I agree
autotelically,
with that.
I am autotelically happy as long
Wait a
as
second.
don't,
How about your wife?
I'll make her happy. All right. What
Wait
I
a
mean
second.
is,
Now tell me more about that. I mean, the thing is, you can't have your wife and you guys are harmonious all the time. That can't exist.
again,
She has different opinions than you. Want you to do different things.
the two truths allow you to play the game and transcend the game at the same time. It's a thing of beauty. And that's somebody asked, I think it was you, Joel, what happens at the line? At the line where you dispel your own psychological double bind, you don't cease to be as a human being, obviously. Just because you take the knot out, it doesn't mean that you take yourself out. Until your mind ceases to exist or the light bulb ceases to shine, you're still in the game. You're still in reality, which has two aspects.
You changed the goalposts.
The phenomenal, that's
changed
right,
the
the
line.
phenomenal and the non-phenomenal. So at the line, you're still playing the game, but you have transcended it. So you are naturally supernatural.
What do you think, Shanti?
Have you heard this definition for what a human is? That it's a being that can articulate in abstract thought. So it doesn't necessarily mean Homo sapien.
Yeah.
Yes. That came from Lama Lena. She's a trip if you haven't connected up with her online. She's teaching Dzogchen and doing the pointing out instructions in almost every one of her teachings.
The word is interesting, abstraction,
Yeah.
because you subtract yourself from. So basically, you are the world, abstracting yourself from the world in order to understand it and see it. But you cannot, there's no exit door to reality. So you can only leave reality in your mind because you don't leave it physically. There's no way. This is still reality. Wherever you look at it from, it's reality looking at itself. But the abstraction of the mind is the one that splits reality from itself. That's how the one becomes two. That's in one of the Hindu sutras out there, where reality looks at itself for the first time and it was afraid. That's the way they describe it. So the mind is reality stepping out of itself mentally, abstract in an abstract way, not in a real way, to look at itself.
Yeah, it's the only way it can.
That's right.
What do you think, David?
Well, what?
About your mind abstracting reality from itself? Or no, what is
Well,
it?
the thing is, I'm a word guy, and I go back to words, period, because the thing is, anything you're going to take and abstract from yourself is going to be based on the definitions that you have of the different words that you know or understand or believe in. So therefore, whatever your result is going to be based on definition that has been established in the mind in order to come to a conclusion, period.
And what if your conclusion messes up your life? Could that be possible?
Oh, every day. Every day that happens. I mean,
Welcome
that's-
to our club.
Yeah, that happens all the time, Jairo.
And whose fault is that?
Well, that's
If
not from, just the circumstances itself, just like a couple weeks ago, my engine blew up in my car. So here I am wondering, Jesus, now who do I call first of all to get this thing towed somewhere,
Yeah.
And my mind started working. I go this place first, and finally I got insurance. I can have it towed by my insurance company, but all these other things go through my mind. So where do I have it towed to? I have it towed to a guy that usually changes my oil, that changes engines. Well, after I get there, I call him up and say, hey, how much is it going to cost me? Oh, it's going to cost you $4,700.
Whoa.
No.
Huh?
How can
So
that
in the
be?
meantime, I call a good friend of mine that has a car dealership. And he says, Tommy, I said, I blew my engine. He says, well, let me check on it for you. He says, I got an engine I can get out of Cocoa for you for $1,100 and a guy that'll change it for $900. So
Deal.
immediately I've gone to a point of $4,700 down to $2,000. So anyway, I have the guy change it. And the thing is, everything gets changed, and we change all the parts on it because my engine had 300,000 miles on it. So we changed the starter, the water pump, and all this other stuff, which adds another $1,000 to the cost of the motor. So then we finally get it all done, and what happens? Now it's leaking coolant, and we're trying to get this thing fixed and haven't been able to master this as of yet. But it's something that's very frustrating, and no matter which way I go to make a decision, I'm trying to take and get it resolved for as cheap as possible. The first thing I did.
should have sold the car for cash.
What?
You should have sold the car for cash right away.
Well, that may
Not a
be
used car.
true.
Are you driving a Toyota, David?
Huh?
Are you driving a Toyota?
No, I drive a Mazda.
Yeah.
There's the problem.
Well, I
That's
don't know.
funny.
It's got 300,000 miles on it,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
and that's
When my son was playing youth hockey here in Florida, we would rack up usually within 2 or 3 years, we would rack up about 250,000 miles on a vehicle. My wife would on her vehicle, but we always had Toyotas, so they would always make it that far. They wouldn't we would usually trade it in at about 250,000 miles just simply because of the liability of having a vehicle with 250,000 miles on it when you're trying to get a kid around the entire state to play hockey.
right.
My wife is, I want to make sure she's not awake, but my wife is also really good at wrecking cars. So that was usually about the point where she would wreck that car anyway. But Toyotas are amazingly reliable in
Right.
terms of the amount of mileage they can get. Any Japanese car, though, pretty much. American
Yeah, I
cars
mean,
not
I've been
so
very
much.
happy with my Mazda. Not a problem.
You could have bought a $3,000 Toyota.
I don't know. I don't know.
Toyotas have really good resale values, even when they're used.
Right. Most of these Japanese cars all do. But you're right. Toyota seems to be right up there,
Mm.
even with a lot of miles on them, I know.
Yeah.
What do you
But
think,
anyway,
Joe?
the thing is, my point is, the thing is, you don't know some of the decisions that you make, what's going to happen, with the people you're dealing with whatever is there. So you just have to confront them, at the time they happen. So.
No doubt about that.
But if we were enlightened beings, would we know the right decisions to make every time, or do enlightened beings make mistakes?
Only if they play Darwin. Enlightened
Joe.
beings play Darwin. They
Oh,
don't always win.
Isn't that going beyond learning, beyond going with mistakes? And there's not even a choice. It's just a natural flow of harmony.
what
A lot
about
of people
using-
ask that question. A lot of people ask that. What happens when you become enlightened? Everybody wants to know. Okay, so yeah, all right. You feel good. You're not stressed anymore. You're smiling all the time like a happy Buddha under a tree. You are very, very zen.
your ear
and-
gets longer.
But then what happens at the
Your ear, like Spock.
Your earlobe gets longer, doesn't it?
What
yes,
about
yes.
the tops of your ears? Don't they
they're
get
nice.
pointy?
No,
Yes, mine,
unless
mine-
you're Mr. Spock.
Yes.
You got to make sure you wash in there too around that time. Yeah.
Then you get a big belly, you become fat, and you look Asian. That's enlightenment right there. But no, a lot of I've had serious conversations about this topic. What happens when a mind becomes enlightened? Do you just fizzle out? Do you go crazy? Because of course, the idea of transcendence is kind of scary, just like the idea of death. You're not, the transcendence is like you leave the raft behind, so you go to the other shore. What is this about enlightenment? What does that mean? Are you happy?
Well,
You know,
enlightenment, though, just by definition, means that you come to the light, period. It's no different than if a person has knowledge of something, but has never used it practically, and all of a sudden the practical knowledge that they have becomes something that becomes part of their life. All of a sudden now the knowledge becomes understanding. And when you understand something, you're basically enlightened.
what happens when you understand everything? That's what the
not
people
possible.
want to know.
Number 23.
It's not
Well,
possible.
they want to know. It's not possible. See, we go back to the two truths. You, when you're omniscient, like they talk about the Buddha, they don't say that he is a PhD in mathematics, physics, all kinds of science. He can do heart surgery, and he knows about how to lose weight in 3 days. No, omniscience is not about knowing things. Omniscience is about knowing the nature of anything.
That's Sutra 17. Sutra 17, same as the number of spaces on a Darwin board.
So now the question
That's a
becomes,
bingo.
what
That's
is
a
the
bingo
nature?
there.
What is the nature of anything?
Okay, we'll get the next sutra then.
The nature
Go
of
ahead,
anything.
big one up.
I have to say, Joel,
20.
if I was on a
20.
Zoom meeting, if I was on any other Zoom meeting, Joel, where I was watching someone play with themselves, I'd get off that meeting really quick.
Sutra 20, that was it.
Now the question becomes, if we follow the course of this, is what is the nature of anything?
Is the emptiness, the
Well, if you don't
empty
have-
of inherent existence of anything,
The
right?
three characteristics that we can talk about it. I'm not making this up. There are guys that have
Or-
been thinking about this for thousands of years. Actually, I'm sure that somebody in a cave was thinking about this somehow while he was drawing those gazelles on the rock, because every
Sutra
individual
14.
every individual has this kind of question every so often. Is like, what's the deal? What is this? What is it all about? So those guys that put a lot of thought into it knew the difference between the relative knowledge and absolute knowledge. Absolute knowledge is beyond knowledge anyway, because it's reality in and of itself. But they also asked the question, what it is to know? And then to know is to know the nature, the essence of anything. Because, how many things can you know? It's infinite too. How many rocks are there in Mars? What are they made of? Do they have a lot of iron, or do they have a lot of cadmium?
If you know if it's to know the nature of anything, then is it to know any one thing? That if you just know one thing of anything,
Reality.
then by knowing that one thing, you would
That's right.
know everything, right?
That's right.
Like
That's right.
if you know that a cup that you pour coffee in, that cup doesn't really exist inherently. It exists in your mind, in that you label it cup, and you bought it, and because of the function that it has to offer. But it's in your mind, the function of it. So you've learned the nature of that object. So just by knowing the nature of that
Yes.
object, you know all objects, right? Is that what you're saying?
But this is
Or
not.
you
Yes,
have to
that's
go
right.
through
That's
each
right.
object
So,
and know all objects? Or
but
can
they're
you
all the
just
same.
know
The
everything
nature
by
is the
knowing
same for
one
every
thing?
object. Yes. So, but in knowing the nature of anything, any object, you also know the nature of no object, which is the nature of empty space, 0 Kelvin. And in knowing that, you know the nature of knowing, because there's a looking into the nature of things. The look in itself, you will know the nature of that too. And if you read the sutra number 225.
No, they don't go up that high.
Okay, 125.
No, only up to 36. Come on.
36
Stop
is the last
exaggerating.
sutra, Joe. 36 is the last sutra, and it's called Kula Shunyata Sutta. And it is the sutra on emptiness, as a matter of fact. And in there, they go through all the stages of knowledge, all to the most abstract knowledge, the more subtle, the more knowledge about knowledge. And eventually it says, this knowledge, this knowing is just the same as any object that I've looked at in the whole universe. And it is impermanent, constantly changing. It is empty of substance or entity. It is just a process without an owner. And because of its dynamic play, it is stressing to itself. Anicca,
Listen, I'll let you in
dukkha,
on a secret.
and anatta.
I'll let you in on a secret, but
a minute.
I gotta make sure nobody's listening.
Go ahead. We're going to be on YouTube soon.
Doing the right thing wrong is better than doing the wrong thing right.
Bravo. Bravo. Yes, I agree.
And that's Sutra 18. That's why I had to tell you.
Are we using
Yes.
a book of
Wait a
Darwin?
minute.
But go
Luis,
back to 37 and it'll tell you that right and wrong are also anicca, dukkha, and anatta.
wait a minute. How can an object have dukkha?
So dukkha, you have to translate that word. David is strong into words. So what is dukkha? How do you translate dukkha? What is that these guys?
Unsatisfactoriness. I like unsatisfactoriness.
But there's a mosquito, no unsatisfactoriness. That's the thing. It's
Or
always a mental
suffering.
thing. It's always a
stress.
mental thing. Stress, agitation. But if you look at a 0 Kelvin becoming 1, which is a quantum of energy, which is the smallest thing ever, the smallest thing you can look at is empty space, boop, and a virtual particle coming out of it for 10 to the minus 35 seconds in a space of 10 to the minus 35 meters. And it disappears again. So 0 becomes 1, 1 becomes 0. That is dukkha.
That only happens on Tuesdays.
On quantum Tuesdays.
No, any Tuesday.
What
I
do you
saw
think,
that
David?
in a Cheech and Chong movie.
So that is omniscience. Omniscience is not knowing things, but knowing the nature of anything and the nature of knowing itself. And that's when the mind goes through that torus, a wormhole, where it comes in, studies everything, and comes out and goes, what did I see? Nothing. Because everything is nothing, and nothing is everything.
What do you
That's
think, David?
that's omniscience. That's omniscience.
Do you think that a mosquito suffers? What do you think, David? David, do you think a mosquito suffers?
Well, I don't know if a mosquito's probably not. I don't know. I have no idea. But I know the thing is, they do have a mission, and that when they take and they bite somebody and pull their blood out or whatever, the thing is that there evidently is their mission to a point, to live or whatever. Just like I said before, like when I've seen roaches and you try to kill them, what do? They run away from you. I mean, so they have some kind of sense, to their existence period, so how much that is, I have no idea, but, I love the way that, Louise described his, whatever that was, quantum physics or whatever, that there's an event that without words, he could never, ever describe it, period. So to me, like I say, I go back to the foundation that words of definition are used to take in, define our own reality, which Louise was just doing here shortly ago. And we all do the same thing. The only thing is what he did, that there is sort of a theoretical type of presentation of an event that he had, which is great. I mean, it's great for Luis to think. I have no idea what he's talking about himself, but that's Luis. So everybody has their own sources to come up with their own things, but no matter
Yeah.
what those sources are, we all use words, and our ability to use words determines how we define them and how we see them and how the mind takes and interprets them. Just like Joel and the monkey here.
Joel, what do you think about that? Does the monkey suffer?
Well, if you would have to ask the monkey, according to Luis, it's only in the mind. So I have no way of knowing your mind or my mind, or what will happen when I roll the dice. That's something we can each experience and agree to our experience.
We can guess, at least. I guess that if the monkey falls off the tree, it's going to hurt and he's going to know. He's
Future
going to.
26.
That's right. He's going to feel pain. I think the difference, and it's in the spectrum. The difference. There is a point where the knowing knows that it's knowing. That's where things get dicey here, because
That's a big no-no.
that's a big monkey wrench. When does the knowledge know that it is knowing? That's the monolith in 2001. That's what it represents, actually, in the movie 2001 Space Odyssey. The monolith represents the onset of the race towards self-awareness, self-knowledge, a knowledge that knows it is knowing. That's how I describe the human mind. Human consciousness is a dynamic knowledge that knows it is knowing.
Too many no's.
Is
You're
it
always getting
possible?
into the no-no.
I know.
Yeah, but you can
You're
pretty
in
much
the
wrap that
no-no
up.
zone.
I'm
I
sorry.
know, no. If I know,
Seth, what you were saying
need
something.
numbers.
I was
You
going to
need
say the distinction, I
mathematics.
think, to me, like the distinction between humans is self-awareness. Like
Yes.
using the cockroach analogy, the cockroach runs away simply by instinct. It
Yes.
doesn't think about, I got to run away or I'm going to die.
Right.
It doesn't even
know
ask
that
what
it
happens
is.
after
Yeah.
I die.
Right.
It
Right.
just simply runs
And-
by instinct.
Now, some people will say that the roach will have some self-awareness. Well, maybe yes. Maybe the mosquito knows somehow a little bit that he knows, but I don't know because I can't talk to a mosquito. But you and I, the humans, can talk to humans. We're like prisoners in a cell, in our own cell, but we can talk to each other outside the door. Like.
Well, but you could make the same argument with an ant colony to some degree, because
yes,
an
and
ant
we don't know.
colony
We don't. So maybe they
will-
talk to
it-
themselves.
Yeah.
Maybe they talk to themselves, but I mean, the complexity of their organization, their creativity, they don't draw things or, they do things in their own way. Maybe consciousness, it depends on how you look at it. Like pornography depends, on the eye of the beholder. But we cannot talk to ants. We cannot talk to monkeys, or very little. We have talked to some monkeys. We taught them some words and they express words back and forth. But like you guys and I, as human beings, we've never seen any complexity, like that. But what we know, all of us will agree that we know that we are knowing. So there's a self-reflection, this self-awareness of ourselves, as opposite to other things. We
Awareness?
distinguish ourselves from the background.
What about the self-aware universe?
But we are the universe. That's the thing. That's what I'm proposing, is that we are not other than the universe.
Can we talk to the universe and like pray to the universe?
But we are the universe talking to itself.
But is it okay to pray to the universe?
How the universe talks to itself, it depends on each self-aware consciousness that arises from the whole kit and caboodle, the whole enchilada.
So there's a self-aware consciousness that is localized in each human, and can each of them have a conversation with the universe
and with each other?
But can
and
it
with
with
themselves.
the whole universe?
The light bulb can talk to itself, can talk to another light bulb, and can talk to that which it comes from.
Also,
So there's three
objects
levels of
are
communications.
aware. So the light
In a,
bulb is self-aware.
in a sense, you can say that. So there's three-way communication with a consciousness that talks to itself, talks to other consciousnesses, and talks to that from which any consciousness arises, which is the ground being, the Shunyata, the ground of being, the zero Kelvin. Everything arises from nothing.
And can the consciousness Seth talk to the universe?
Seth, is that you're asking Seth?
Can the consciousness of Seth talk to the universe?
Or
And does
reality?
it matter if it's a Tuesday or not?
Only if Seth thinks, if the consciousness of Seth thinks, I am talking to myself.
Because
The universe. Because I am the universe. So it's, again, wherever you put yourself in the universe, that's where you are. That's what you are. If I say I am the whole reality and I'm talking to myself, I am talking to reality. I'm talking to the whole. And that's the way that's what I do all the time now. Because I don't think of myself as having an owner that thinks about the whole. I am the whole thinking about itself. I have destroyed every line in the sand. I'm constantly going through the torus, the wormhole. I am the whole playing with itself.
when you say I am the whole, are you saying that I as an individual are equivalent to the universe, to God, to reality?
I becomes then the whole, which is everything and nothing at the same
You're
time.
the Alpha and Omega. You are the Aleph Not.
Yes. And that's the way I feel. Anything now is reality talking to itself through its parts, through different consciousnesses.
Blasphemy.
I
You're
know.
saying that you are God.
And I stick with
Oh
my
my
story.
God.
That's nothing new.
Respectfully.
God, from the beginning of our conversations.
I am God. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am what is. I am what I am.
I am the devil.
I thought I heard some
And-
limitations. I thought I heard some limitations in this God speak here of not being able to talk with cockroaches, since that's part of all that is, or talk with a rock. It's all part of consciousness too. So there is no limitation there in the conversation other than, and they may speak other languages as well, right?
You can say that reality speaks beyond words. So it experiences itself. It is itself in you, in the ant, in the monkey, in the tree, in the coffee mug, but beyond what we call consciousness, beyond words, rationalizations, distinctions, fabrications, etc., etc. So when reality is 100%, David Bohm wrote a book about that. It doesn't know that it is, but it is. So it's experiencing beyond words, beyond thoughts. And that's a little bit.
What do you think, David? Do you think that we can think without words? Is that what Luis is saying, that we can think without words?
Well, I think we can, but the only thing is words add a great dimension to our ability to think, because that adds a logical order in which we can take and, sort of calculate in the mind and come to describe different events and different things. That's one of the things is that people have that ability to do that other animals, they may communicate with their own sounds, but they don't have the flexibility to take and write down their noises and document them so that people actually can communicate with them. But the human being is I shouldn't say allowed to,
so
created this event where you can take and do that. So then the words of people that are of old can be transferred into a new generation in new times, so you can see what people were thinking about, thousands of years ago through the ability to communicate through writings and through words.
So
isn't that a function of society, though?
What?
To some degree, what we call our self-awareness. Because if you take a child, I was reading about this recently. You take a child, what we would call a feral child, right? So a child that was abandoned out in the wild and could do nothing but interact with other animals. That child does not learn to speak. That child does not learn any tenet of society. That child, when found by human beings, will often have trouble learning to speak, will have trouble learning to deal with society. So at our base, a lot of this question came from, are we animals or are we not animals?
Well,
Right?
the thing is,
Some people
We're
say,
both.
you know,
Yes,
humans
I
are
agree
not
with you.
animals,
Yeah.
you know, but I
We are
wouldn't agree with
riding
that. I
on the
would say
shoulders
humans
of
are animals.
giants. We are riding on the shoulders of culture. We are what we are because human beings are gregarious and they talk
Right.
to each other. They communicate with a
But
very great complexity.
So
But by
to some
ourselves,
degree, you
we're
could
nothing.
say, you could say we are what we are
Yes.
because of being educated by society.
Yes,
Without that
yes, yes,
society, we would still be physically
yes.
here,
but isn't
but
that
we would have
just
a very
drawing a
different
line on
reality.
the sand? Like, isn't culture just drawing a line on the sand? And isn't that what words are doing? Is drawing a line on the sand? So isn't the feral child, isn't it closer to God because he hasn't drawn a line on the sand?
Just like
I
the
would argue
mosquito.
no.
The
I would argue
mosquito is
no.
closer to God than
No, God is a
the
social
amoeba.
construction.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
no, I agree with you, Seth, that we are the result of complex interactions of complex minds talking to each other and building on each other. All this gibberish that I talk, I didn't make it up. I read it. I just happen to agree
You
with
learned
it.
it.
Makes me
Yeah.
makes me happy. Makes me a better neighbor. Also, more respectful. I play the game nicely. I follow the rules. I'm extremely happy. I am, but I didn't make it up. I am riding on the shoulders of giants. Thinkers, thinker after thinker after thinker, and then you combine all the thinkers, and then it's not a thinker but thinking. I am the result of human thinking. I am right here sitting on a big pyramid of thousands of years of, trying to find out what the hell is going on here.
But
that's
it's not
important.
static.
Of learned behavior.
It's changing. It's changing thought. So it's not real. It's not it's not absolute truth. It's relative truth. So it's
You have to combine
fictitious
both of
truth.
them. Yeah.
It's fictitious truth, or is it leading
It
to?
fictitious truth regarding the real truth, which is transcendent of the fictitious truth. But yes, it's
But
all
are
together.
you any closer to absolute truth with that fictitious truth? It could be taking you down a wrong,
At least I
wrong
destroyed
way.
the line. I destroyed the line separating the fictitious from the real, because
How
there's no
did
line
you
anymore.
do that?
Because I decided that there is no line anywhere
But
separating anything.
See, but
no,
then I
but
would go back to the feral child analogy where they would have no line because that line would never occur to them.
That's
They
right,
would have
because they
no
don't even.
social structure to teach
They
them
don't-
about religion, to teach them about
that's right.
God.
That's right.
So it wouldn't even exist. You would just
So-
simply be.
That's right. So you have to take both the fictitious, which is the human thought combined for years and years and years and years, with the non-fictitious. You cannot separate one from the other. Alan Watts says it very elegantly. He says the mind is his own trap.
The thing is, folks, there are tribes and there are people in this world that, really they don't have outside education and understanding of words like we do. For instance, over in Indian Ocean, I understand there's an island over there where the people are just left to be whatever their nature is, and they live on this island, and the Indian government has decided to just leave them be to live their lives. And also, the thing is, you have in the what is it, down in the Amazon, there's a lot of Indian tribes that are down there that actually live in the inside the jungles themselves, and they're protected by the Brazilian government, and the government's down there. Now, these people, they do have a communication system because I know somebody that's been there and worked with them. So, the only thing is their communication system is, a verbal sound type of communication.
Grunting.
Yeah. So the thing is, I mean, these different people they live different lives and they see life in a different way. And I think it's not that much different in where we're all talking about here. The only thing is everybody here is seeing life according to the way that they brought up and the exposure that they've had to their own existence in life.
But so are they. Because again, like Lewis said, they're riding on the backs of giants. They have a learned society. no matter how they grunt,
But there's
no matter how primitive they seem to us,
Yeah.
they have learned from their forebears how to behave.
Okay.
They are not primitive
So-
as we, like I'm some sort of 15th century explorer from Europe coming to the Americas and saying these people are primitive.
Yeah.
But they have learned. They have a society because they have learned from each other
right.
and taking that learning down the ages. So to me, that is a fictitious reality because they've been taught something.
In
Right.
this pyramid of knowledge,
You don't believe
there's a
in
lot of
people?
room. There's a lot of room in the pyramid of knowledge for cultures, subcultures, ideas, traditions, memes, all kinds of stuff. There's room for Scientologists. There's room for scientific minds. There's room for artists. There's room for depressed people. There's room for business people. There's room for everything. The pyramid of the human mind is really wide and really, really tall.
Right.
You pick what you choose in there. It's like the Garden of Eden. There's many trees, apple trees, pear trees, and there's the tree of knowledge. Maybe the one that goes in the middle, just going as high as possible. I want to know what the hell's going on here. Who is in charge? Just like in the movie 30 Encounters of the Third Kind. He goes there and say, who's in charge here? I want to know what the hell's going on. And so that's the human mind, the collective human mind is doing that. I want to know what the hell is going on here at the very small, in the quantic world, and the quantic nature of reality, and in the cosmology, both small and big and in between. I want to know what the hell is going on here. Who the hell am I?
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, David.
I got to leave here, so I'm going to depart from you. It's nice talking with everybody. And Seth, I think the first time I've seen you, and Shanti too. So it's been a real pleasure, and I hope you join us again next week, maybe.
It's always great, David. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
So we'll see you guys
you,
later.
David.
Bye, David.
Thank you.
Joel
And
and
I'm
Jairo.
I'm about to do the same thing in the next couple of minutes.
I
Always
I was wondering if you'd come across the Dogon tribe in Africa. Are you familiar with them?
No.
They knew Sirius B before our scientists found it. It was part of their culture for centuries, and they knew exactly where it was in the hemisphere out there before our telescopes. We had one big enough to actually be able to chart it.
There's the human mind has a big intuition. If you read Carl Jung, the collective unconscious, that is the pyramid of knowledge, but at the subconscious level, at the non-liminal, a subliminal level. So there is a lot of intuition, and a lot of thinkers thought about physics before physics were invented.
Right. So isn't that enlightenment aspect that we're going for here, bringing all of that unconscious aspect to the light?
Verbalized knowing, it was an intuition then. It's not miraculous that we think of things before we can mathematize them. So I believe that very much.
Right. Yeah. Until we can explain it, it is a miracle or magic.
You feel, again, we are the whole of reality. So within us, intuitively, subliminally, or below the knowledge base is everything there.
Yeah.
So a lot of scientists, Poincaré, the mathematician, the French mathematician, Poincaré, Einstein, and all those big guys, they tell us that something came out of their intuition, and then they have to put them formula to it. They have to verbalize it instead of with words, with formulas, with new systems of calculations, new matrices, because, now mathematics uses numbers we scarcely understand. The square root of I is -1. Like, what the hell is this? How can you multiply a number by itself and get a negative number?
So is that collective consciousness, is that located within us and separate from others, or are we pulling it out from an ocean of collective consciousness, what we want, maybe through our dreams or meditations?
It's all in 0 Kelvin. It's all potentially in 0 Kelvin, right there, everywhere, and nowhere at the same time.
What do you mean by 0 Kelvin? No
The
energy?
the ground of being. You studied Shunyata for how long? Don't you realize that when they talk about
But they
Shunyata,
don't
they're
talk
talking
about
about
those
empty
scientific terms.
space? But
They don't
you
talk
can
about
you,
it
you
that
can
way.
call it whatever you want if it makes sense to you. To me, it makes perfect sense to draw a parallel between zero Kelvin, absolute zero, which we cannot attain because it's just always that asymptote to infinity, whether it is in the big or in the small. 0 Kelvin is the asymptote into zero. But it's an asymptote because the closer you get, the more it evades you. And eventually, at the quantum level, it tells you you're touching it, but you're not at the same time.
But
At a
what do you mean?
frequency,
What do you mean we can't get to it? Is that like by measurement we can't get to it, or by
you need to
Zero
read
Kelvin
about
is
it.
theoretical.
It's
Zero Kelvin is
theoretical.
theoretical.
It's theoretical. I mean, we've gotten
Yeah.
to very, very close, but in a quantum, reality is quantum, guys. Let's get it clear. Now, I'm not saying this. This has been proven. Reality is a 0 and a
Are you
1
saying
at
the
the same time.
material world is quantum?
Everything is quantum. Yes.
You could
Everything.
could
Zero.
you specify
Zero is
that
quantum.
the
Zero.
material world is quantum, but reality
We don't see
doesn't.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Reality includes the material world and the non-material
right.
world, right?
so our
you can't say
senses,
that it's
our
quantum.
senses are not made to measure a 0 becoming a very tiny 1, which is 10 to the minus 35 meters. We don't have that technology. We don't have that energy. It takes a lot of energy to shoot 0 and get a 1 out of it. That's what they do in CERN. They shoot.
What is that one? Is that one a substance?
The Planck scale, the Planck number, 10 to the minus 37 joules.
Is that like smaller than a quark or what?
It's the
what
smallest. It's the string. It's the smallest string.
Is the absolute atom, you could say. The particle that can't be divided.
The first thing that a 0, when the 0 becomes something other than 0, it's the quantum.
But when you say 0, when you see 0 becoming a 1, is that 0 also a particle or something?
No, it's the absence. It's the stopping of the particle. That's why you also hear sometimes 0 Kelvin referred to as absolute 0.
Absolute 0.
Because that is the stopping of all like matter literally stops.
But 0 is absolute only for a 10 to the minus something second. That means that the 0 doesn't stay 0. And something has to come out of it, a virtual particle, which has the energy of a quantum.
Between 0 and 1 constantly. So couldn't that be a field of 0 and 1 constantly? So there's no way to have a field of all 0?
That's right.
But going with the concept of Kelvin, of absolute 0, you can never reach it. There can never be 0 because it just can't happen.
You could reach it
mathematically.
If you had enough energy and enough power and enough computing power and everything, you could reach it, but only for a quantum time, for a quantum second. That's that, because 0 becomes something other than 0 every 10 to the minus 35 seconds. That's the
0 is actually the lack of energy.
Yeah,
there is no energy at 0, which is why it can't be reached. That's why
right.
It's purely theoretical. So there's really no coming from 0 to anything. Energy always exists.
That's right.
You can never stop.
But it is quantized. It is quantized. So 0 becomes 0 for such a tiny amount of time in such a tiny amount of space that you can really talk about time-space.
I would say that 0 is theorized, not quantized, quantumized. It is theorized because you can never reach it. It can't be done.
Right. And if you did reach it, you could only reach it for 10 to the minus 35 seconds in a space of 10 to the minus 35 meters. So,
but that's also theorized, not.
Well, that I don't know.
That's a mathematical theory because it's unobtainable in a sense.
But that's what the measurements are telling us. The measurements are telling us that 0 only exists, the absolute 0 only exists in a quantized nature. So at some point, 0 is not 0 anymore. And from it, from it arises a tiny amount of energy, which is a quantum. And that's
How
the
do-
nature
how-
of
How
everything.
do you know it's from it? What if it's just from another one?
You can say that beyond the zero, there's
Like
another
you're
dimension,
saying that
another universe.
You're saying that from darkness comes light.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened to
that can't
David?
be. What if
Everything
it's just
comes from nothing.
what
Everything
if
comes
it's
from
just-
nothing. That's what it's telling you.
What
Yes.
if it's
We
just
use-
that there's light, and when when there's an absence of light, there's darkness. You can't say that out of darkness comes light. That's what you're saying.
Darkness is
Well,
light. Darkness is light.
See, that's
and
what
light
I
is
was going to say.
darkness.
In the lighting world, we use Kelvin as a measure, right? So 0 Kelvin, and we usually picture this as a square. So if you had a square and you could cool it to 0 Kelvin, right? That is absolute zero. It is black, right? And then as you begin to heat that square, it begins to emit light, and that's what we refer to as color temperature. And usually where humans can kind of perceive that color temperature is when it gets to about 2000 degrees Kelvin. Normal sunlight's about 5400, 5800 Kelvin. Most of our lighting sources inside our home, incandescently anyway, are about 32, 3400. A lot of the LED sources we have now are more towards sunlight in the 55,000 to 5600 range, although we're now color correcting those sources, those LED sources, so they're more like the incandescent light that we're used to, which is based on fire. But you know, to us, that absolute zero, that complete blackness, that is the lack of color temperature altogether. That is the zero.
Seth, are you saying that when you start heating up the zero? But in quantum theory, what they are saying is that the zero lights up itself with a quantum of energy without having to get it from anywhere else.
Yeah.
So the zero lights up by itself, from itself, into a quantum of light. That's what they're saying. And that is like saying that reality was not made by somebody else. It was always there. Because being and non-being, that means that the 0 Kelvin and the quantum of non-zero are the same thing, and they're always there,
so
like the
that
yin and the yang.
So that means that energy is being created constantly out of no energy.
Yes, all the energy in
So
the universe
wouldn't-
comes from 0 Kelvin.
So wouldn't it
And in
cause
0 Kelvin, it is potential. It is non-actualized energy.
wouldn't it cause a big bang constantly? Like
Well-
we're in a big bang constantly.
But
You
they're
know,
itsy bitsy big bangs.
I believe that the universe, the cosmos, or the bulk, all the universes, are like a lava lamp from the 70s. And it's always going like this. And you have black holes becoming white holes becoming black holes, and it's at no end. And the quantum nature of 0 Kelvin is telling me that. So the 0 becomes 1 and the 1 becomes 0. Whether you look at the quantum level or the cosmological level, there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no creating act. It's always been there. 0 is the creating
a
act.
song like that?
I'm
Time
sorry?
has no beginning and history has no end. Who did that song?
I don't know.
Was that Neil Diamond?
I'm gonna look into it. Maybe
Was that
maybe
a Neil
had
Diamond song?
maybe
What is
had
it again? I
straight.
can tell you this without a shadow of a doubt if it's a Neil Diamond song. What were you saying?
Was it Time has no beginning and history has no end?
No, not a Neil Diamond song.
Maybe-
I'm the
maybe
lighting
it was-
director for Neil Diamond. I've heard Neil Diamond so many times I can't even tell you. So that definitely that is
maybe
definitely
you're
not
thinking-
Neil Diamond.
Maybe you're thinking Neil Young.
Hell,
Maybe Neil Young or Gordon Lightfoot. Oh, it's Gordon
Okay,
Lightfoot.
maybe.
It was the sinking of the Edmund O'Brien.
Or if I
time has
could,
no beginning.
or if I
is
could
that
put
the-
time in a bottle.
History.
That
has no
song?
end.
No, I think
That's
it's Gordon Lightfoot. The
History has no
Sinking of the
beginning.
Edmund O'Brien.
History has no beginning,
I'll
and
look
time
it
has
up.
no end.
No, time has no beginning and history has no end.
Time
Hold on,
has
I'm
I
no.
think that's the phrase. But on a slightly different vein, immunogenicity of the phase 1 and phase 2 trials of Moderna's vaccine are now offering encouragement.
Nice.
And that's not something that I have the ability to evaluate myself, but I have to rely on other people. How do I know if that's true?
You don't.
Wow.
Until you try it.
You have
If it
faith
works for you,
to
it
some
is true.
degree.
If it doesn't work for you, it's not true.
But if time has no beginning and no end, is it a line or is it a circle?
Listen,
It
I'm
is
trying to
both.
find out about immunogenicity. They say that it gives you 90 days of protection, according to the research study.
It gives you 90
That's a
days
little
of
more
protection.
practical if we can deal with the reality that we all share just for a moment. And what
And,
does Scientology say about all that?
And
Scientologists take vaccines?
No.
No?
No.
They're all anti-vaxxers.
Yes. Scientologists do not believe in modern medicine. Strangely.
What about Buddhists? Do Buddhists take vaccines?
Depends.
That's a good question. This Buddhist would.
No, you can't.
Wait a minute. Are you varying from doctrine or are you upholding doctrine in making that assertion?
Buddhist is pretty huge. You can't pin them down. I guess there's many different.
I would agree with that.
There's
Absolutely.
Buddhist sects.
It would kind of be in that debate about which life is greater or what, not doing harm. What would be the greatest in not doing harm, right? That would probably be the line you'd be following on would it be less harm to take the vaccine or would it be more harm?
What if you have the bodhicitta intention to not do harm and you say, well, if I take the vaccine, it could be harming me and then if I'm harmed, it could harm my family. So I with good intention decide not to take the vaccine, but then you catch the COVID-19 and you don't even know it because you're asymptomatic and you go on with your life, and then you spread it to some other people and they spread it to others because they don't know they have it, and then you end up with 10,000 in your area having it, and out of those 10,000 it causes maybe 100 to die. And so what is the karma there? Did you cause that, and is it your karma even though you had good intention? Or what if you did the same thing but you didn't spread it by chance? You either spreaded it or you didn't spread it. So is there a different karma or depending on the outcome, even though you had good intention? Because they say that karma depends on what your intention was, and you complete the action and things like that. But then if the end result might be different either way. So what karma do you accrue? If you look at it, a karma as something that you put in the bank, in a karmic bank. Just something to think about.
Guys, I had to leave for a second. I had to go take a leak. And as I was doing that, I thought of this.
Uh-oh.
That sounds serious.
Sorry. And, after that, I'll lead you guys. Maybe we can talk about this in our next Zoom. But we were talking about zero becoming one and one becoming zero without the help of anything outside of that dipole. And I believe that that's what the latest physics is telling us, that the zero becomes one and one becomes zero without any external energy or force.
That they know.
So it made me think that if the zero becomes one and one becomes, of course, that explains how there is no creator or creation of the universe, because the whole universe is made of zero ones anyway. So that would take care of the myth of the
Unless there's a
creation in the
consciousness
creator.
that's deciding when zero becomes one and
And
one
we
becomes
are
zero.
going there now. We are going there. We were talking about the line in the sand as a double bind, a psychological double bind, yeah, where the natural becomes supernatural and supernatural becomes natural. You can say the natural would be the one, and the supernatural would be the zero, since we can't see it, right? How do you see the zero? So here we go. We do a parallel between 0, 1, being, non-being, natural, supernatural, and where is that line in the sun, which is mental, drawn? Joel, you asked that question before. What happens at the line? I say the mind is the line. That means that the 0 doesn't know there is a 1, and a 1 doesn't know there's a 0. There's no line between them, and that is consciousness. Consciousness is the dynamic interplay, self-aware interplay between the 0 and the 1. And it's in the spectrum, because how much consciousness is there between 0 Kelvin and 1 string, compare to the consciousness of a human being, for example? Again, it depends on where you draw the line. So I propose the following subject of discussion for next Zoom. Is the mind the line in the sand? Because there is no line in the sand without a mind. That's why the mind, it's its own trap. Because how the hell do you know there's a trap if there is no mind? So I propose the following. The mind is the consciousness between the 0 and 1, no matter what scale or where we put the line. You can put the line between the 0 and the 1, and you will know that it is mind-made anyway, so it doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put the line between 2 zeros and 2 ones, which I think makes a proton, or half of a proton or something like that. And then you can go on and on and on building. Wherever you put the line is where the mind is. And now there's a line for a mosquito, there's a line for a human being in the forest, there's a line for a human being at the top of the pyramid of knowledge, whatever you call that, etc., etc.
Dr. Del Pino, that makes no sense at all. Where
I
is
know.
the net? Where is -1?
-1.
Are you dealing only with positive numbers or negative numbers?
No, because
That's a definition, though. That's not
yeah,
reality.
if you study the math will tell you that you establish a line before you can go into the negative. It's a mental thing. The negative is a mental invention, just like mine is a mental invention, and the line is a mental invention. Just like the square root of -1, right, is I.
But where's
Or no, I square is -1, something like that.
Where is it? What's that thing called? It's too bad our math professor isn't here again.
I know.
He was really enlightening to listen to. I enjoyed
Indeed.
It made it worth coming to these meetings.
Yes.
Not that you guys don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, but there's only so much knowing that I can know without going.
Because the mind is self-reflecting.
I have to bribe him to come next time.
If you ever look at yourself.
How much did you have to pay him last week?
$100.
Let me propose this again. Once you put a mirror in front of you and a mirror behind you, you create an infinity of views. No. So because
but
the
I
mind
only
is
get that in the barber shop, and they're closed because of COVID.
Well, that's your line in the sand. But I have this dual mirror, the fictitious reality and the real reality. Everywhere I go, I see infinity in everything that I look at, and everything I think, and everything I feel.
Now you have mirrors in your glasses?
In a sense, this consciousness has destroyed the line in the sand and discovered 0 and infinity at the same time.
Recognize there was never a line to begin with.
Right.
But if you remove the line, wouldn't 0 and 1 merge, or would they explode?
All I know,
Or that
all I
it would
know
cause a bliss.
is that the
The
line
union
is the line. Any line is between the 0 and the 1.
of wisdom and emptiness.
How long the line is, I don't know, but there is a line, a mental line, a consciousness line between the 0 and the 1. Otherwise, because the 0 is potential, reality. What do they call that?
Emptiness?
No. Yes, 0 is emptiness, but also it's pure being, 100% potential, like God.
And one is wisdom. So when you remove the line, you combine wisdom and emptiness, and it explodes into bliss.
So 0 is 100% potential. 1 is 100% actualized. Now, how big or small it doesn't matter because it's actualized. What's something that is actualized is 100% actualized. The 1 is 100% 1, and the 0 is 100% 0. 0 is potential. 1 is actualized. And if you read David Bohm, who explained it beautifully in physics terms, saying that reality is a hologram. Yeah, everything is made of 0 and 1. That's the nature of reality.
What do you think, Seth Rappaport?
I think it's largely a social construct. This is the measurement we give the 0 and the 1, right? It's simply what we call it in order to quantify it.
Yep.
Right? Does it exist? Does it not exist? That's a measure that human beings can't conceive.
That's consciousness right there.
Right, because it is consciousness, but at the same time, it is a lack of understanding to some degree because we're trying to understand it. Right? Yeah, because
reality knows everything
definition.
about itself, but it doesn't know it knows it. Let's put it that way.
That's very apt.
And that's where the mind comes in. And then depending on the clarity of the vision, you go to full understanding or 0 understanding. But it is true, reality knows everything. But the problem is it doesn't know that it knows it if it is not through the consciousness that arises from it. And that's why the line in the sand.
Well, and reality is what it is. And right? And
beyond knowing.
It is what it is, and then there's what we think it is. There's what we perceive it as.
That's right.
So Trump is very wise by saying it is what it is.
Yes, and
he doesn't know what he's saying.
And he invented the COVID vaccine also. That's thanks to him that we're going to have it. All right,
we're going to give Biden
guys.
credit for it.
I take credit for it. I'm the whole of it.
Good job. Well done, Louis.
When is your next, Shanti? When is your next meditation meetup, Shanti? Next Tuesday?
My own show, or I keep going into all these different Buddhist pockets these days since you get to stay at home. I get to go all over the world. It's so many things have opened up.
Yeah.
That I've been having a show down here Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock.
Is it virtual?
Yeah, under the non-duality and beyond aspect in Stewart here. So
nice, the name of the name of the meetup is called Non-Duality, right? Or something like that.
And beyond, as if there is any.
Oh,
there is no beyond.
Exactly. You get the joke. You see, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
There is no beyond. What?
Right.
Then
there's only one.
Are there Buddhist cowboys?
You bet. Yes, a lot of them come from Tibet.
And are there Buddhist mathematicians?
Oh yeah.
Yes. They have the word Shunyata. That's 0, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
the
that's
ground of being. Emptiness, the ground of being, 0 Kelvin.
And is there a grand master like in Queen's Gambit, Buddhist chess players?
There's the Buddha.
Yes.
I don't know if you met him, but that guy supposedly got to the end of the rope and shattered the rope, and he said, "I got this." So that was the grand champion. But I suspect that Buddha is just like the God or Jesus, one of many. Every consciousness is liable to get out of itself.
They play short games of Darwin in Tibet.
Do they? Who is the Tibetan national champion? Because as far as I know, I've never heard of anybody in Tibet playing Darwin.
Well,
Can you connect me with someone in Tibet to play Darwin?
They play a version of Darwin, but they don't use a game board. They use it in their mind.
The mandala, the
that would be good.
The
if
yin
they
yang
could do
mandala. That's the yin yang mandala. That's their board.
If you like chess, has anybody watched on Netflix the
Queen's Gambit?
I've started to.
I snorted
excellent.
it.
To Jairo, thank you, Jairo.
Oh,
I snorted it.
Yeah.
I binged on
Yeah.
it from the beginning to the
Yeah.
end.
How many episodes are there?
1,000.
There's only like 10, I think.
Are there? Okay, I got up to number 3 so far.
Yeah,
There's
Apparently
many-
based on a true story.
Is it a true story?
Loosely.
It's
Yeah.
loosely based on.
It draws parallels with people in the chess world. They are definitely OCD, OCPD. They are totally obsessed. They cannot think about the plays, memorize. They have an incredible processing memory. They can remember all the games, all the plays, all the moves. It's just like a freaking computer.
Wow.
Now, of course, it's on one plane. It's the plane of chess. But if you could apply that to another dimension, then you have the Darwin.
Darwin
That's
is
exactly
three-dimensional, isn't it? Darwin is three-dimensional chess.
If you can make
tic-tac-toe.
chess multi-dimensional, at least 11 dimensions, like they talk in the M theory, then that's reality right there, looking at itself beyond a shadow of a doubt.
But when you throw a die, or is it dice? When you throw a dice, you can never get a 0 unless it stands on its corner.
Yes, you can. You can get a dice on the edge. You can. It's possible. Anything is possible. It is possible there may be a unicorn on the other side of the moon.
Maybe that's when it's 0.
But the probability of it is infinitesimal, probably
Or it
quantum
stays there for
infinitesimal.
10 to the minus 32 seconds.
But everything is possible, but only with a certain degree of probabilistic actualization. Let's put it that way.
I always thought of as like, to me, rolling a 0 is when it falls off the table. When you throw it, falls off the table, that's a 0.
Yeah. It depends on where you draw the line, but to me, the moment I decided that everything is possible in reality, but with a certain degree of probability, that's when I put everything became natural.
Before that,
let's put it this way.
The Chinese just proved there's no unicorns on the other side of the moon.
They did?
Just recently. They just landed a lander there.
They are the unicorn. That's why they didn't see any. It's like, fuck, there are no unicorns here. You are the unicorn, Chinese guy. All right, guys. It's been
me too.
I always get so much out of these things. It's phenomenal. Shanti, nice to meet you. I bow down to you. I bow down to you.
Thank you, Shanti.
I bow down to all of you. I enjoy this so much. It's almost illegal.
Another morning wasted.
If the man knew we were doing this,
perfectly wasted couple hours. All right, guys. See you next Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Shanti.
Everybody's
Shanti
gone.
left. Now it's just Joe and Jairo and Darwin.
Everybody left.
And just in time for you to join the next Zoom meeting. Is that what you're planning on? Is there one at 9 or is it at 10?
Oh, I didn't even look. I slept in and I actually I wasn't going to get out of bed because I wanted the math professor. But
oh, you came here for the math and I disappointed you.
it was very interesting.
And
what are you up
and
to? Are you going to the Buddhist cowboy meetup?
there's always something going on Zoom, and
Yeah, there is.
I guess Toronto philosophy has some things going on, or some others. Is there one
Yeah,
in the morning?
Not
Name.
not so much in the mornings. I think the humanists are at 11 o'clock.
Oh yeah, okay, the humanist. Oh yes, the wasn't wasn't the one time I joined one of those in the morning that you suggested?
Yeah.
Was pretty
Yeah.
good. And there was one on Islam, or that it went eventually got to Islam. Like well, not Islam itself, but how to deal with Islamophobia. That I don't know if it was in the morning, but I eventually got to it. Hmm. Well, there weren't any there weren't any Muslims in the meetup, but there's one person that didn't reveal their identity. It's just a phone number. So maybe that was someone listening.
No, I don't think so. I think that there are some people that don't have computers that join up at a distance, or they just like to listen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We couldn't get them to speak. Hmm. But wow.
So
Hmm.
where are you off to now? You've got another meetup down in Florida?
Wow. I did sometimes on Saturday mornings they have something. Oh, hmm, I think they may have some kind of practice at at um at my Buddhist center, meditation in Orlando. Let's see, they have a calendar.
So basically, people have a need to socialize, and they look for ways around which to socialize. Buddhist practice, lectures, games, yoga on the beach. So that seems to be some kind of a human need.
That seems to be some kind of a human need during this pandemic era.
Well,
So
I think it exists even without the pandemic.
oh
It's more easily fulfilled. You can't focus on it because you just go there and do it and may not even reflect on what you're doing. Your need is met. But now you have to look around on Zoom or find ways.
yes, we have to see what's coming up next on Zoom in our countless meetups that we've joined. Sometimes I have to when I go to meetup.com, I have, especially on my phone, I think it only shows what's happening 30 or 25 or 0 miles away from where where you live. So I have to go change it to
Yeah, change it to
anywhere,
any distance.
any distance, and then it's still not showing. So I hit the icon meetup, and oh, and I changed on my phone. I changed it to desktop version, and then oh, okay, oh, now I see what's coming up. Oh, I better join 52 Living Ideas and get on board for the next episode of whatever whoever's giving the talk. And sometimes I join in the middle, so I don't know what happened. But then when I go into the breakout room, then it's pretty interesting. Let's see.
The Sacramento Association
Oh,
for Psychological
oh, there's
Type.
something going on. Oh, there's something going on at 10 that I'd like to join. But it might cost something. No, maybe not. Not for me.
Is that the
I'm a
Buddhist
member.
cowboy one?
Yeah, it's called Mantras, Mindfulness, and the Power of a Pure Intention. Discover the power of mantra and learn this blessed method for developing a deep and stable experience of peace.
Now,
Om.
what is all this? I just missed it. I went by it. I lost it. Anyway, 9 o'clock. Washington Park walking and talking. Living by the law. Firefly mediums and retreats workshops. Some of these look pretty hairy.
Oh, maybe I should actually go outside this month.
Wow, but that would be going into nature.
Yes.
That would be erasing the line between the mental and the physical. Is that permitted?
I hope it is. I kind of miss it.
Yeah, me too.
I was outside yesterday, but it was to get in the car, and then I drove off, and then I parked, and then I got out of the car and went inside buildings, and then got out.
What buildings did you go into?
So a workspace and also a Home Depot to pick up some items. Oh, but I think I could give the excuse that to my family, to my sister, who's the householder or the owner of the house. Well, she's in ownership with my mother, but she runs the joint. That maybe I could get permission from her to leave this premise and say I'm to go to the office to fix something. But she's real busy and she needs my help. She's packing up for in a few days. She's going on a trip to Colombia.
Wow.
For a month or so.
How come? Isn't it dangerous?
Yes. Isn't it dangerous? And
traveling during this time.
And they're going to celebrate Christmas in Colombia. So,
oh wow.
So, but when they get, before they board, they're probably gonna take a COVID test, COVID-19 test, and then when they get there, they're probably gonna take a COVID-19 test, and or they should. And
what
maybe
if they can't come back?
And what if they can't come back?
What happens if you test positive in Colombia before you board your flight?
Wow, that's something I've never thought about.
To return. Well, how are you going to be able to return?
Then they'll have to change the return time, and she get charged extra for changing the time of return. Oh, or maybe
they won't even allow you to.
Maybe they won't allow you to. Wow.
You got to quarantine for another 14 days, and then only if you test negative after that time, and who knows if you will test negative. Like, really, has she thought these things through at all?
No, and she thinks a lot, or worries a lot. And she thought, I guess they want to go celebrate Christmas and New Year's, because she has a son that's living in Bogota, Colombia. And so she's got a place to stay there in the big city. But it's a nice apartment. And then she has a lot of cousins there to go visit. Oh, so she's going to go spread or maybe catch the COVID-19 while she's there.
Yeah, doesn't that worry her at all, or doesn't that concern her?
Yes.
But not enough to affect her behavior.
But not enough to hinder her from enjoying life after being shut out for 6 months. But I think she also 2 months ago she also traveled to California to see her sister, no, her daughter and her daughter's kids for a week. But when she got back, when she got here, she got tested, and she tested negative after a few days. But she's pretty good about wearing masks and washing hands and keeping the house clean and making me keep the house clean. And yeah, I have to wash my hands before eating or after using the bathroom and things like that. And she doesn't let me go sing karaoke at the karaoke bar. I went there once without telling her. Then I got grounded. Well, I had to. Yeah, when I go out and come back, I have to take my clothes off and take a shower. Supposed. So, but what about Canada? Is it are the cases increasing in Toronto?
They're climbing big time.
They're climbing. Yeah, it sounds like they're climbing here, and it might. I imagine it'll climb to tremendous heights after Christmas and New Year's.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be
And
scary. Imagine I'm
like
surprised your sister's traveling to Colombia.
Maybe it'll even double the number of deaths. Like, so already it's 250,000. Maybe after in February or March, it'll be almost double. Or they're saying it could get up to 470,000 deaths.
That was the upper end of what they predicted before. I wonder if it's going to go well beyond that anyway. Even with the vaccine, because it looks like 15 months or more before the vaccine is anywhere nearly available in any kind of significant quantities.
How many months?
15, I would guess.
Wow.
You got a whole, I mean, people are realistic.
They're pushing it for, they're pushing, or some people are, or some countries are pushing it. We want it now. Like,
well, they want it now, but it doesn't exist.
Or they're approving certain versions that haven't been tested well. Like maybe Russia is trying to get one to be used that has been half approved, and maybe even, I don't know, North Korea is trying to use one that comes from China. And I don't know. I heard UK is trying to go with one.
Yeah.
So maybe that there's such a rush for it that they're gonna try it out anyway and see what happens. Even though it's been half tested, so I guess if they use it and they'll find out in real life what happens. I don't know. Well, the side effects and stuff like that. Maybe it won't be too bad. Well, there'll be side effects and things go wrong, but it'll be like maybe 1% of people, or maybe that they'll have to wait months and months to see what it caused. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I guess we'll all find out after a period of time. Now, here's a master investor show in the UK, but I can't tell if it's online or not. Business Design Center. No, it looks like it's. Are they still having in-person meetings? That sounds unbelievable.
Yes, there's a meetup in this area where they meet at restaurants. Like it's a meetup that's popular. Let's try out this restaurant, and they meet in a crowd of 20 to 30 people. Let's try out this Chinese restaurant. Let's try out that one. So they enjoy once a month meeting for a particular fancy restaurant. And I saw, wow, they're meeting.
That sounds scary. I don't know. Maybe your sister's got the right idea, but I'm extremely cautious. In fact, I just had a friend who's taking a car into a garage, and I offered to pick her up and drive her. She works in a hospital, and she says that she didn't want to expose me to the risk because they've had an outbreak, not an outbreak, they have what's called a caution. They had once they have one case in the hospital, they put everybody on a special caution protocol.
Wow.
And, if they have a second break, then it's a stricter protocol. So anybody who's had contact with the patient, so they're taking these things pretty seriously, but yet there's people walking around that don't seem to think about them at all. They don't seem to have any concern. Like those people meeting at a restaurant, that's scary to me.
And when they eat, they have to take their masks off.
I would think. How far apart do they sit?
Yes.
So so I can see why the politicians, the one guy said in the province of Manitoba, he said anybody who doesn't believe this isn't really happening is just an idiot. That's a pretty blunt statement for a politician.
Wow.
Thousands of people a day are dying, and David seems to feel that they're only reporting these deaths as COVID because they get more payment from it. I hope he's wrong, but I don't know how you would dispel that kind of logic, or if you should even try.
Yes, there's a movement to to deny science. It seems like, or and go for an alternative science view, and they have their own doctor saying, "Oh, it's been overestimated, and somehow it's a cabal or a deep state that's doing this to try to take over the world."
But will those doctors walk into the COVID wards themselves without masks? Or, I mean, that's the truth of one's convictions ultimately, is behavior. Don't you think? I mean, people can talk about no, and knowing no, and there's no zero, and something comes from nothing, and it doesn't matter. It's not relevant to anything other than people who like to hear their voices, and they want to display their voices in front of others, and that's fine, as long as the others are willing to listen to it and they have their own forms of knowing and zero and ones. But when it matters, so are these doctors who are saying that it doesn't exist, are they walking into these wards with people that are imaginarily affected, and are they willing to breathe the air there? Will they suffer the consequences? Or are they saying, no, we'll just no everything. It's all a mental no, and I'm a doctor and I no, but I don't do.
And then there's the idea that the masks don't work, and so and so and so they and then
whether the masks work or not, are these people walking into these places? Like, are they actually physically, by their behaviors, displaying the conviction they have in their views?
and their reasoning is the the masks have holes in them, and the virus is a certain size that it's so small it could go right through that hole. But then they say that the masks are bad because it doesn't let you breathe in oxygen. But it turns out that the oxygen molecule is hundreds of times smaller than the virus. So, so if it's blocking out oxygen, then it should be also blocking out the virus. So it could actually be protecting your, besides protecting others, it could be protecting yourself. Like if somebody's talking and the droplets come at you, it could be protecting you somewhat. But yeah, maybe it's become too politicized, and people, they want to keep their business open and tourism open. Oh, there's a Iceland, the little island of Iceland. It's an interesting case study. It's only what less than 500,000 people in Iceland, and how they did. Sounds like they did pretty well, and they did a lot of I guess a lot of looking at what was going on, so they have a lot of data, and so other countries are looking at what happened in Iceland to learn more. Oh, and this morning I found out that the American Red Cross discovered that there's people that had the COVID-19 way back in December of 2019 in the United States. People who donated blood, they checked out the blood, and there were some 80 people that had COVID-19 as far back as December. So then they could project that maybe they overcame it and didn't know they had it, and so they may have had it as far back as November or even October, even as far back as September. They may have had it in the United States. So that changes the narrative of the story.
Well, I better turn off this mic.
I can't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to go to Ottawa and see what the great minds in our nation's capital have to say.
Ottawa? What's in Ottawa?
Ottawa is the Center for Inquiry, a science-based group. I know that doesn't appeal to everyone, but
Is that you have to go there using Zoom?
yeah, it's too far to go just in person. So they have 6 people there. Here, you can listen. Oh no, they're not saying anything.
Ottawa.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Who's that? Joel?
That's Joel.
Hi, Joel. We're having some technical difficulty with Alex is presenting, and I think he's running into some problems. So hang in, wait. Hopefully he's going to figure it out.
Okay, in the meantime, I won't leave my Buddhist meditation in Florida. They're talking about what is truth. So if Jairo would like to broadcast while people are waiting for Alex to connect up, we can connect up with him, or we can have a game of Darwin to pass the time.
Wow.
I think we can definitely talk, but we should not share anything while Alex is trying to figure it out.
Okay.
That could distract what he is, but we definitely can talk about Buddhism if you like to. And
Well, it's not me. It's a gentleman who is in.
What's the name of the group in Ottawa?
This
How
is
do
the
I find it?
Center for Inquiry.
oh, he is. Yeah.
It's starting now. So look it up. Here.
Center for Inquiry.
Over the decades, my colleagues and I have exposed terrible misdeeds and crimes by large corporations, which have taken many lives and caused
I'll give you the
injuries
Zoom
and
link.
diseases. On top of damaging economic costs affecting many incidents.
Found it.
But exposure was not enough. We had to secure congressional mandates to prevent such devastation. As a result, many lives were saved and many traumas prevented, and especially in the areas of automobile, pharmaceutical, environmental, and workplace health and safety. Along the way, we kept getting one question again and again. Ralph, how do you do all this? Your groups are small, your funds are modest, and you don't make campaign contributions to politicians. My response points to an overlooked
That sounds like
pattern of American history.
Ralph Nader.
About every advance
Yeah,
in
I think it
justice,
is.
every blessing of democracy came from the efforts of small numbers of individual citizens. They knew what they were talking about. They expanded public opinion, or what Abraham Lincoln called the all-important public sentiment. The few citizens who started these movements enlisted larger numbers along the way to achieving these reforms and redirections. However, even at their peak, the actively engaged people never exceeded 1% of the citizenry, often far less. These builders of democracy and justice came out of the anti-slavery drives, the pressures for women's right to vote. They rose from farmers and workers in industrial sectors, demanding regulation of banks, railroads, and manufacturers, and fair labor standards. In the 20th century, improvements of life came with tiny third parties and their allies, pushing the major parties in the electoral arena to adopt such
I joined on my
as
computer.
the right to form labor
Bye.
unions,
See you next time.
hour a week,